Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Some unwillingly estranged parents come to a very painful realization that the happy childhood they did their best to provide for their children was not experienced that way by their now estranged adult child. And one parent told me something that made me want to record this episode. She said, "I want to fix the faults that hurt my child." She seemed to believe that her personal shortcomings were the cause of her adult child's estrangement. And if you have ever had similar thoughts yourself, and not every parent feels this way, but if you believe even a tiny bit that your personal weak points are the reason your child or children have stepped away, I'm glad you're listening, because viewing yourself as having flaws that are so egregious that they harmed your child or children is just so unfair, depressing, and, in my opinion, simply not true. Because we're all human, all parents have flaws, foibles, and weak spots. But not all parents have adult children who are estranged from them. So I question the evidence for blaming estrangement on personal flaws. The first question that comes up for me is whether the quality of your child's childhood is even relevant to their current estrangement. Their desire for distance in itself is not proof that your child is or is claiming to have been harmed by you or your flaws. Some estranged adult children, not all, but some, just want more separation and space than their parents are comfortable with. That reason for estrangement has nothing to do with anybody's faults. That's the first consideration. Secondly, if your child was harmed, and truthfully we all do get hurt to varying degrees in childhood, it seems to be part of growing up. But if your child or children were hurt, was it really by you being an imperfect human, or was it by specific interpersonal exchanges? They may have been interactions that your child had personally or that they witnessed in the home. Maybe there were patterns of behavior or family dynamics that caused your child distress. And unlike flaws, interpersonal exchanges can hurt us, and they can also be a potential vehicle for healing. My third question is about the true nature of what we call faults or flaws. It seems to me that most so-called personality flaws I hear parents complain about in themselves are more like adaptations. Let me just mention 5 that I've heard parents mention and then explain what I mean by adaptation. Number 1, the need to be right. Number 2, being controlling. Number 3, being quick to take offense. Number 4, having trouble with trust. And number 5, being quote-unquote needy. I don't think anyone is born struggling with those issues. Yes, temperament does play a role in the expression of personality, for sure. Being more of an extrovert than an introvert, for example, that seems to be baked in. But concerns about being right, wanting or needing control in relationships, being quick to take offense, not trusting other people, and seeking the fulfillment of unmet emotional needs, all of those are, in my estimation, socially mediated, not genetically determined behaviors. They evolve adaptively from our earliest circumstances out of a need to operate within the reality of the world as we learn it to be through our very first contacts with other people. How do we learn that it's important to be right, or that people can't be trusted? I don't believe that newborns know those things. So the faults you see in yourself might be more like acquired habits than indelible stains on your very self. And even if you're not the perfect human being, whatever that would be, The mere existence of shortcomings doesn't hurt your children or anyone else. We get hurt in relationships by interactions we have and interactions we witness, especially as children. It may seem like I'm splitting hairs between personal faults and faulty interactions, but the distinction is useful because that's where the genuinely good news lies. Interactions are how we get hurt, but they're also how we can heal. That's how therapy works, by the way. It's not in the talking, but in the interaction with a tuned-in and caring therapist that we begin to heal from relational injuries. If you're worried that you may have harmed your child or children when they were growing up, you have yourself now, your wonderfully human, flawed, but still lovable self, to use as a tool for repair. Surprisingly, you don't need to be in contact with your adult child to start repairing any damage that was done interactively. It begins with you consistently choosing to accept and embrace yourself, finding compassion for the person you were as a younger parent, and for yourself today. Slowly but surely, you can move forward with more flexibility in all your interactions, including how you treat yourself. If you have trouble with self-acceptance, and many of us do, see if you can find a local counselor or therapist to help you start to embrace your humanity so that you can learn to have compassion for yourself, faults and all. Here again, in brief, are the main ideas from this episode. First, estrangement in itself is not proof of faults or flaws that need fixing. Second, we get hurt by behavior, not personal flaws. Third, what we call flaws are often adaptations to the early conditions we grew up in. And finally, if either you or your child was ever harmed by parent-child or other interactions in the home growing up, the good news is that better interactions between you can begin to heal those injuries over time. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.